All right, it's 10 o'clock. Thanks for everybody joining us. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, has everybody had an opportunity to sign in the sign-in sheet? I do see some new faces here today. If you haven't, please, before you leave, sign in. Thank you. Any public comment on agenda items only? Yes, sir. Can you state your name?
George Butler.
Yeah.
I have a comment about $60,000 for golf Tioga.
Okay.
Last year it was only $32,000. I see it's double this year. Are they still going to get the 32 plus the 60?
No, sir. No.
I see they changed the wording so they can take it from Act 13.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. That previously had been included in the general fund budget. And again, a way to cut into the deficit was to move some of those line items to Act 13.
Well, why did it double?
Because they're doing additional services for the county, specifically related to some of the flood items that we've had over this last year and really ongoing support of that operation in our community.
How's that going?
It's going good.
I was up to Potter Brook and Westfield the other day. It's a mess up there still.
Yes, sir. We are still diligently working with PEMA and FEMA to clean up that debris and do some stream work. Every time we have a conversation with DEP or PEMA, it's no, you can't do that. So we are working through that process, and we have support from Representative Owlett's office and Senator Yaw. I'm actually testifying tomorrow down in Williamsport for a public hearing and testifying to what we need here in Tioga County for stream maintenance and flood mitigation.
I was just curious because I thought you were going to cut back on spending.
We are, sir. Yeah. We cut $700,000 from the general fund budget, and we're going to continue to do that. Yeah.
But your payroll increases and everything, plus another 30,000 here, that kind of eats your 700,000.
Yeah. Well, this is Act 13 money.
Right.
So again, we moved it
But
from the
it's
general
still-
fund to Act
It's still our
13.
money,
Yeah.
but they just changed wording so they can use Act 13 instead of paying it away.
Yes, sir. Any other public comment? Alrighty. We have the minutes for the February 11th meeting. Signed by all here.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 11th.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, Casey, personnel items.
Yes, the first few items we have are for information to the board. The Prothonotary has hired Robert Penzone III as a clerk and the Prothonotary and Clerk of Courts office at $14.50 per hour with benefits effective 3/3/25. The sheriff has hired Tyler Corwin as a full-time deputy sheriff starting 3/10/25 at $18.50 per hour with benefits. And we received resignation from Jeffrey Rosenheck, Emergency Services Training Coordinator, effective 3/6/25. The first item I have for approval would be to hire Grace Field as a foster care caseworker assistant at $16.15 per hour with benefits.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item I have is to approve the hire of Christopher Smith for Emergency Management Coordinator at $58,000 per year with benefits, effective 3/24/25.
I'll make the motion for the approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
The next item I have is to approve the hire of Emily Owlett as a part-time on-call corrections officer at $13.81 per hour with no benefits.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
The next item I have is to approve the hire of Brady Strike, full-time communicator in training, $19 per hour with benefits effective 3/24/25.
I'll make the motion for the approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last item that I have is to approve the hire of Chester Johnson, maintenance worker 1, at $17.50 per hour with benefits.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up, we have a proclamation for Pennsylvania 4-H Week, which is March 16th through the 22nd of this year. We have some folks
Yeah,
from
come on up
4-H to read.
Yeah, thank you for coming over to read the proclamation and maybe talk a little bit about it.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Mark yourself, go ahead.
Whereas 4-H is America's largest youth development organization supporting nearly 6 million youth across the country. And
Whereas 4-H has helped 226 youth in Tioga County become confident, independent, resilient, and competent leaders, and they learned by doing. And whereas 4-H in Pennsylvania is delivered by Penn State Cooperative Extension in rural areas, small towns, and cities in all 67 counties of the Commonwealth, and more than 77,000 youth ages 15 to 18. And whereas 4-H youth in Pennsylvania are served by a network of staff members and more than 6,000 adult volunteers and who engage and mentor youth in leadership activities, hands-on projects, and topics such as animal science, civic engagement, STEM, and health and well-being. And
whereas Pennsylvania 4-H Week showcases the incredible ways that 4-H inspires kids to achieve and highlights the remarkable 4-H youth in Tioga County who work each day to make a positive impact on those around them. And whereas 4-H networks provide youth with opportunities for leadership, development, career exploration, problem solving, friendship, community involvement, passion, and purpose. Now, therefore, we do hereby proclaim March 16th to the 22nd of 2025 as Pennsylvania's 4-H Week throughout Tioga County, and encourage our citizens to acknowledge and celebrate 4-H for its valuable service and continued efforts to empower youth with a foundation of success for a lifetime.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So, hi everyone, I am Taylor Leach. I am the 4-H educator for Tioga County, and I do have a few members with me today. They would like to, they'd like to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
I'm Morgan Keeney. I'm part of
Canyon
Canyon Country 4-H Club, and a couple of the projects I do are crochet, camping, and animal science, or veterinary science.
I'm River Keeney. I am also in Canyon Canyon Country. A few of the projects I do are Perfect Pals and
Your meat birds.
My Meat Birds.
I also have just a...
I'm Heather Keeney. I'm a 4-H alumni and parent volunteer. I have done everything from model horses, goats, sheep, cooking, baking, sewing, candle making, and general volunteering with 4-H.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion for approval.
I'll second that.
With a motion and a second, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is a proclamation for Problem Gambling Awareness Month, March 2025. We have Diane Weed to...
All right. Diane, thank you for coming.
Having me. I'm Diane Weed. I am the Drug and Alcohol Assistant Administrator for the county. And March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and this is the proclamation. Whereas the National Council on Problem Gambling has designated March of 2025 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Whereas problem gambling is a public health issue affecting millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds. Whereas problem gambling has a significant societal and economic cost for individuals, families, businesses, and communities. Whereas problem gambling is treatable and treatment is effective in minimizing this harm to both individuals and society as a whole. Whereas numerous individuals, professionals, and organizations have dedicated their efforts to the education of the public about problem gambling and the availability and effectiveness of treatment. Whereas the National Council on Problem Gambling in Tioga County SCA invite all residents of Tioga County, PA to participate in Problem Gambling Awareness Month. Therefore, we the Tioga, well, this is your guys' line, but I'll read it. Therefore, we the Tioga County Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in Tioga County and encourage all citizens to support the National Council on Problem Gambling and the Tioga County SCA in their efforts to mitigate gambling-related harm nationwide.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the Problem Gambling Awareness Month proclamation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next proclamation is for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month for March 2025.
Good morning, I'm Sarah Rice. I'm the administrator for the Tioga County Department of Human Services, and March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Whereas people with developmental disabilities come from diverse racial, ethnic, educational, social, religious, and economic backgrounds and are valued members of society who strive to enjoy an everyday life, and whereas people with developmental disabilities and their families are working for inclusion, equality, recognition, and appreciation of their skills, views, abilities, and contributions, like all Pennsylvanians, and whereas Pennsylvania continues its focus on person-centered approaches, community integration, personal choice, quality and service delivery, health and safety protections, competitive integrated employment, accountability and utilization of resources, and innovation in service designs. And whereas the rate of individuals with developmental disabilities enrolled for services engaging in competitive integrated employment has reached 18% in the Commonwealth through the increased provision of training, resources, services, and supports that allow more individuals to pursue their desire for employment. And whereas opportunities for training, education, and skill building for those with developmental disabilities continues to grow with the implementation of training programs and inclusive secondary education certificate programs at Pennsylvania institutions of higher learning. And whereas the Department of Human Services continues to offer opportunities to individuals and family members through accessible training initiatives and services that allow them to increase their knowledge and participation in advocacy, supports, and disability services. And whereas Pennsylvania continues to build an inclusive Commonwealth where all can live and work as part of their community and continue to enjoy their everyday lives. Therefore, we do hereby proclaim March 2025 to be Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in recognition of the many accomplishments and contributions made by those with developmental disabilities. We encourage all Pennsylvanians to support those with a developmental disability and their families in all aspects of their community life.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt the proclamation.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Next proclamation is Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and that's for April.
All right, I will read this one. Whereas the month of April 2025 is recognized as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and the initiative supported by Pennsylvania 811, a utility notification information center with 53 years of continuous service to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and whereas Pennsylvania 811 received 1 million excavation notifications in 2024, over 3,000 construction projects in PA, and transmitted approximately 6 million notifications to their member facility owners and operators, allowing essential utility and construction crews to provide vital underground services and repair of critical infrastructure to communities throughout Pennsylvania. And whereas when contacting 811 at least 3 business days before digging, a homeowner or a contractor is connected to a unique service that notifies the appropriate underground utility operators in the municipality in which the work will be performed. And whereas by notifying 811 of their intent to dig, the homeowner or contractor is knowingly helping to protect the underground utilities, themselves, the work crew, and their neighbors from any unsafe digging practices within their community. And whereas, upon receiving the notification from Pennsylvania 811, the facility owners and operators disperse to said work site to mark the approximate location of the underground utility lines with flags, paint, or both, to establish an 18-inch tolerance zone of the outside wall or edge of their line or facility. And now therefore be it resolved that Tioga County, in support of the Pennsylvania Underground Utility Line Protection Law, PA Act 287 of 1974, we do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and encourage all Pennsylvanians to visit the Pennsylvania 811 website at www.pa1call.org for information about safe digging. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this proclamation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Up next is a request to use the green for a child abuse prevention event on May 31st.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation, discussion?
Yes, so this is our annual child abuse prevention event on the green. It's always free to the public. Bounce houses, activities, free food, free entertainment. We combine it with foster care appreciation and awareness month, which is in May. So child abuse awareness is actually in April, but the weather is usually iffy in north central Pennsylvania in April, so we plan it for later in May so that usually we have a pretty nice day for the kids to come out and enjoy all the free activities on the green.
Alrighty, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
And next up is a request from the Sheriff's Office to use the courthouse parking lot on April 19th for a bunny trunk event.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
At the last meeting, we tabled a decision from a request from UPNC, the forensic nursing program. We need to readdress that.
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the requested funds.
And I'll second that. And then
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
yeah, I didn't know much about this. I know that Sam had went and looked into it, and after talking to the DA, this is a really valuable service. It's a needed service for people that have been sexually assaulted, and they go and they meet them where they're at. Sandra, I wish she was here to speak on it because she does a really eloquent job. But Sandra, our DA, is also a nurse or was a nurse. And she said the treatment today compared to when she was in nursing years ago for like rape victims is much has improved greatly. And this kind of helps them through the process. And it's also a key part for convicting people, because Sandra needs that information. So this was something that I think after it was explained to me, I didn't really feel comfortable voting on it last month, but after it was explained to me, and I can get behind this, so.
All right.
Did we use Act 13?
Yes, we're, yep. So we will use Act 13 for this as well. If it is approved, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is a detention agreement with Potter County for housing inmates here at the county prison at $85 per day.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, it just costs a lot to have people in jail. To be honest, it's just really expensive. It's a drain. And sometimes we house inmates from other counties, namely Potter females. They don't have anywhere for females, so we do that. But we're trying to be good partners to our neighbors, but we had to raise the rates, and this still is a little short of what we would like, but we understand that they're in the same kind of problems that we are, so we had to do this.
Yeah, I think coming into office and seeing the rate that we charged other counties to house their inmates, the three of us were like, we got to do something on that. So we did have a conversation with Potter County, and I think this is about double, essentially what we were charging. So again, it doesn't get us all the way to what we need, but it's a big step forward. And all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Next up is an agreement between the county and Develop Tioga for it's 1 year, and it will automatically renew at $60,000 per year using Act 13.
Make a motion for approval.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Mark talked a little bit about Develop Tioga in the beginning of the meeting. They do a lot. They do a lot for our county. They do a lot for local businesses. But they really stepped up during the flooding process. You have to remember we have people that their lives are turned upside down. They have to apply for these funds from FEMA, and they need help. There has to be a liaison between it. And Develop Tioga raised their hand and said, we'll step up. And they are still helping people. Even when people got, they didn't get approved, they helped them through the appeal process. They have lists of people with unmet needs that fell through the cracks. So Develop Tioga does a lot, and they've been good partners to us, and the amount of work that they've done since the flood and continue to do for us is just astounding. So I have no problem voting for this. And also, I'd just like to say about Act 13. So Act 13, and I don't know if everybody knows what Act 13 is, but that's actually a severance tax from the gas and oil industry. That it was pretty brilliant. You know, it was one thing that I wasn't really sure of at first when it first came out when I was mayor. I didn't really understand. I thought it was kind of light on the amount that they could get from the gas and oil industry. But the genius of it is that the majority of those funds stay within the communities where the gas is harvested. Now that's huge for us, y'all. If all that money just went to Harrisburg, Tioga County wouldn't see much of it. So the fact that Act 13 can stay in our community, it's directly related to the amount of gas that's taken from here. So now we have a pool of money in Blossburg. You know, when you had $1 million budget and you got an extra $130,000, that's a big deal, you know? So each community where gas is harvested gets some money. For us, stuff like this, Develop Tioga, instead of it taken out of the general fund that we get from taxpayers, we can move some of these things out of that from taxpayer dollars, resident taxes, to Act 13, which comes from the gas and oil industry. See, that makes perfect sense to me. These are things that are like the library. It's important. I was on a library board. I'm still on the library board in Blossburg. It's an important part of our community, you know? So things, instead of coming out of the general fund, that we can fund out of Act 13. And there are some stipulations of how you spend Act 13. It's in the legislation. But as long as it fits into those categories, then it makes sense to me to use Act 13.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. We will get to public comment at the end.
Next up is an inter-county cooperative agreement between Tioga County and Potter County for Tioga to provide Potter with 911 dispatching services.
Again, this is another one of those agreements that, you know, when we took office, we took a good hard look at and said, you know, we gotta talk to Potter County and understand the service we provide to them. You know, we work with our director of EMS as well as Potter County. We've met several times with them and talked about this agreement and how it can be mutually beneficial for both parties. You know, we thought coming into office that the reimbursement agreement was a little low, so we were able to renegotiate the 2025 portion of the previous Board of Commissioners contract. We did increase it $30,000 this year. and, you know, will increase steadily over the next 4 years for a total contract amount of around $1 million. But I believe there's about 20% of the calls that come into the 911 center.
Roughly 20 to 21% of the calls that we take in the 911 center come from Potter County.
Sure.
So this brings it more into line with the percentage that they should be paying, at least to cover the cost of personnel.
Sure.
We have to have the same equipment whether we have Potter County online or not, but we don't necessarily need as many personnel if we don't have them. So this actually kind of covers those additional people that we need to staff in order to provide the service to them.
Good. Thank you, Lisa, and thanks for helping us out through this process. All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is a contract between the county and Vila LLC. It is a new online tax processing payment, or payment processing service to be used by residents who wish to pay online.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Josh, anything by way of discussion you want to share?
So this allows for the 21 municipalities that we currently collect taxes for through the Tax Claim Bureau. It's payment processing. Property owners can go online and pay their county and municipal tax bill using either an electronic check or a debit or credit card. This is the processing service that allows that to happen. It integrates into our current tax claim system. So it's a switch over from the prior vendor that we had previously been using for current year collections. There's no cost to the county for this service. There's convenience fees. If a taxpayer would like to pay their bill online, there's a convenience fee that is charged for use.
Thank you, Josh. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next up is an agreement with Wilson Consulting Group for engineering services for the removal of railroad crossings in Wellsboro and Delmar.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
By way of discussion, this engineering cost is paid for through a PennDOT MTF grant, as well as there will be some liquid fuels funds because it is in the roadway. This will eliminate crossings at Charleston and over in front of Wellsboro Electric Company, as well as by Osram there. That was part of abandoning the railroad. These crossings had to be removed as well. So Jen would have been able to give a better explanation, but she's not here today. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is an agreement with Ehrlich for bed bug control at Human Services.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up is a one-year HVAC preventative maintenance agreement with Van Hook Service.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is an agreement with Trico Connections to run dark fiber between Park Hill Tower site, and it'll be used by emergency services as well as down the Trailhead building.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Lisa, do you have anything to share in way of discussion?
So as far as it concerns us at the emergency services, that is going to be an additional connection for us between the courthouse and emergency services, where we shift a lot of information back and forth between the two buildings as far as backup goes. We'll also be able to utilize it for camera coverage, additional cameras out there in the public as well. This will actually be a significant reduction. Once it's completed, it'll be a pretty good reduction in what we've been paying for some of that transport of data.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And next, there are 10 agreements for human services on your agendas.
Make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Next up are February 2025 accounts payable and payroll.
I'll entertain a motion to pay the accounts payable and payroll.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are to the point of our agenda for public comment. Yep, go ahead.
On the Act,
Again, would you state your name again,
George
please?
Butler,
Thank you.
the Act 13 funds,
Yep.
they could end anytime, right?
Well, you know, I
I know
see
it's
this as
kind of
a,
like-
just a second. I see this as a shift, right? I've been working here in the courthouse and I see what these funds have been allocated to prior. And I do feel like this is a good investment of this money, a better investment than what has been used in the past. This money, we just had a conversation with Seneca Resources this last week. They're gonna continue, and there are other companies gonna continue to drill in our community. We are gonna use this funding to try to help figure out this budget crisis that we inherited from the previous Board of Commissioners. We are trying to work on
I
that.
realize that.
And listen, we can't just cut everything out of the budget. It was hard to cut $700,000 out of the budget. We had hard conversations. Every department that sits here in this room today took at least a 20%, around a 20% cut from their operating budget, willingly.
20%?
Yes, sir. Some of them took more, willingly.
Right.
Because they knew the crisis that we were in. So I don't want you to think that we haven't done the work to
No,
try to correct this. Okay, we're still in a $1.3 million deficit, and every day we have conversations of what we can do this year to figure out what we're doing with that $1.3 million, okay? And we have things in the works that we're looking at to reduce costs going into next year. Our goal next year is to pass a truly balanced budget for the first time in a long time, okay?
Right.
So,
I'm just worried that the Act 13 money could end anytime.
yes, sir.
All these projects and all this money you're giving out, how are you gonna pay for all this when the Act 13 money ends? They've already cut Act 13, I think, by half. Was that a year or two ago?
It's just the drilling activity, sir. So
Right.
if the drilling activity goes away, the Act 13 funds go
So
away.
if it goes away.
Yes, sir.
you got
And
to
listen, the
have
things
this
that are getting Act 13 right now, if Act 13 goes away, unfortunately, they're not going to get money in our community anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
So how are you gonna pay for all this?
That stuff goes away. We don't have the money to pay for it.
Well, you have to pay maintenance and upgrades on all the stuff that you bought with Act 13 money.
The IT stuff, we would absolutely have to, bring back into the general fund budget.
Right now, what we have is an opportunity to invest Act 13 dollars where normally it would come out of general fund, and that's what we were getting at in the beginning.
Right.
And we're looking at any way we can to save money.
Like the previous commissioners, they bought the house over here, what is it, like $800,000 they got into it with Act 13 money. Charging $1,000 a month rent, which doesn't even cover the maintenance on the place. It's just crazy.
Again, that
That was
wasn't,
the previous
that was
board.
before our,
Yeah.
But why don't you rent it out for offices or something? The $1,000 a month is a joke.
yeah.
Which building, the Historical Society or the one on the
126
corner?
Main Street.
Walrath and Cooley's office. They bought it from her for almost $800,000 you got into it. Then they rent it back to her for $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right. Any other public comment?
I do. Ladies first.
Please state your name.
Hilma Cooper. I'm a Green Free Library Board, and I would like to thank you for the county aid to public libraries. It's distributed among the six libraries in the county, and everybody benefits from all ages. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. And we see what y'all do, especially over in Blossburg. They are very active. Wellsboro, as well as in Oakland. They got a lot going on over there for the kids in that community, and appreciate all you do.
I just had a quick question. Ken Van Zandt, talking about the budget again. So the previous commissioners, were we being snowballed because they always told us we were working with a balanced budget? That was
You'll have to
always
ask
the
them,
platform
Ken.
every year.
You'll have to ask them. It's a good question.
I think that would be something you would want to find out too. You got handed.
We got handed a budget that was $4.6 million in the red, in a deficit.
So we were being snowballed.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what we were handed.
It's confusing.
Well, somebody lost funding, right, for $2 million or something? Human Services or something like that?
Yes, there was an overmatch in human services. We have worked through that at this point. So some of that funding will not be needed.
Well, why was the funding cut? I didn't quite know the
Funding
reason
was
why.
cut.
It was reduced, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of estimating happens in our budget planning for human services. So they're forecasting 18 plus months ahead. So they get to the actual calendar year, they readjust. So they may estimate they need 4 million, and the actual year they say, oh, we actually only need 2 million. So it's not a reduction in funding, it's saying we don't actually need this much money allocated this year.
And that's the state that.
That's state stuff.
I thought that was part of your $4 million shortfall.
No. All right. Any other public comment?
We have one more, I think, from the ABATE.
Yes, Melvin Hall, Grand Canyon chapter of the BATE, and we're requesting that May be designated as Motorcycle Awareness Month for the county.
Yeah, we do that, we'll have that proclamation to put through at that time.
Appreciate you coming out today, Melvin.
Thank you.
All right. The next meeting of the Tioga County Board of Commissioners is scheduled for April 15th, 2025. Commissioner News, anything you want to share?
One of the things that I'll share real quickly